Hi everyone. So, as of recording this, it's been about 20 minutes since finishing Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 2. I feel I need to explain a bit, maybe expand a bit on my thoughts on the season, but as I said in the final video, I thought the way they ended it was a better ending than another 10 minutes or so on the menu of me talking about my thoughts, and that it would fit better to make another video. So a lot of things happened in the final episode, and in the whole of Telltale's The Walking Dead, Season 1 and Season 2, lots of things happened. But in particular, I want to focus on two, maybe three particular points and overall thoughts on my experience with The Walking Dead. First and foremost, what I thought of that episode. Well, that episode, as I said at some point during the episode, it was much slower, much quieter than normal, and I found myself being quieter than normal while playing it. It felt less free than some other episodes have felt. There was less walking around moments and those sorts of things. It was much more do what the game wants you to do. This isn't necessarily bad, it's just different. But yeah, so... And the end of episode 4 kind of left it on a cliffhanger that ended very quickly. And then you just kind of did what you did. Other episodes just felt a little bit more free in that sense. We then get to how I was trying to deal with Arvo. I knew it wasn't going to end well. There was nothing about that situation that could ever come out positively. We would either have to let him go, which would be an endangerment to the group, kill him, which would be morally somewhat bankrupt, or keep him tied up and bring him with us for eternity. Yeah, it wasn't going to work. But I wanted to delay it as much as possible. I knew the rest of the group wouldn't agree with it, and I just kind of... Well, at the beginning of the episode, Jane said to me, talk to Kenny, make sure he's alright, you're the one who can, sort him out. I was kind of hoping I would get to do that. I'm not annoyed that I didn't, because it's the narrative, I think, maybe not from day one of introducing Kenny, but definitely from the beginning of that episode. In hindsight, it was working towards the do you stick with Kenny, because Kenny's kind of beyond saving. So I'm not annoyed that I didn't get to talk him down, but my plan had been to talk him down and then convince him to let Arvo go. Next up, we have Luke's death. As I kind of said, it was slow and non-violent in a weird way. You just saw him slip away. It had less shock value because of that, but I was sad. I may not have particularly seen it in the video. Most of the time when a character has died, it's been accompanied with something like me pretty much whispering out the word fuck. But I didn't with Luke. In fact, for that matter, I didn't with Kenny either. So... But I was saddened by Luke. We were knife buddies for a brief time. And then on to the big one, really. Oh, well, no. Let's segue first of all. Talk about the sequence in the camper van. Is that the correct term for it? With Lee, after Clementine got shot. I was hoping it was Clementine dreaming after she had been shot. She was dreaming back to when she was with Lee. Maybe even remembering when she was with Lee. But part of me at that moment was worried that it was some bullshit narrative where everything that happened after that point in episode 3 was a dream. None of season 2 happened. Luckily that wasn't the case. But that's kind of why I was reacting the way I was, in case I didn't make it clear. Now on to the Kenny thing. Why'd I shoot him and keep Jane? One of the things I think is great about the Telltale series is most of the time when you're faced with a tough decision, you don't have time to make that decision consciously. You really don't, even when it gives you something like 15 seconds. That 15 seconds isn't enough. Other games, let's take a prime example of a very well-known RPG series, the Elder Scrolls games. You have an infinite amount of time to make your decision. By the time you've made your decision, you've thought about it, and you can be pretty solid in your decision. Also, part of it is Bethesda pretty much never gives you a choice that neither result is good. I've never been left questioning my decisions in an Elder Scrolls game. Tiny bit in the Fallout games, but Telltale doesn't give you time to think out your decision. When holding the gun and faced with a decision of shooting Kenny or looking away, which presumably would have resulted in Kenny knifing Jane, I was trying to process it, but I didn't manage to. A prime example of pretty much the only time that I have been able to process a tough decision is the Carly versus Doug decision all the way back in episode 1 of season 1. Simply because she was a better shot, I chose her. This wasn't that. Looking back at it, maybe part of the decision in my subconscious was Kenny was obviously emotionally broken. And he had been slashed across the chest. He was physically and emotionally in bad shape. And I didn't want him to die. I wanted him to be brought around, but I'm not sure I could have done. But it wasn't a conscious decision to shoot Kenny. It was very much a, oh fuck, I need to make a decision, and then all of a sudden I had made the decision. It's good that Telltale manages to do that. I think it was also a good job of them to give Kenny some last words. A dramatic narrative device. Chances are he would just be dead, but it worked. It made it feel slightly less like I'd made the wrong decision. Because, I wanted Kenny to live. I never wanted to be put in that situation, neither did Clementine. Until that point, this episode kind of felt meh. Not awful by any means, but definitely not the sort of quality one would expect from a finale to a series. But the showdown between Jane and Kenny was a superbly set up one. It worked, narratively speaking. It felt tense, and there was no right decision, I don't think. So, that kind of saved the episode, and overall I think it made the episode a very good episode and a very satisfying end to Telltale. Maybe not necessarily from a viewer's point of view, though, because as I said, I was quiet for a lot of it. More reserved, possibly less entertaining. Probably less entertaining. And then there's the revelation that AJ did not go to Karat. And that in fact he was never in danger in the first place. At first I somewhat guessed this, but then seeds of doubt were sown in my mind as Kenny and Jane started to have the disagreement that maybe she did either let the baby die, maybe even left the baby as a distraction for the walkers, or maybe he had just died while she was trying to escape them. Maybe one of them grabbed him. Either way, the revelation that he was still alive, I was then faced with an option. I could either say, "I forgive you, Jane," or, "I'm not going anywhere with you." And again, I started to think about which decision to make. I didn't want to forgive her. She made me kill someone who was very close to Clementine. That's not really something that's fully forgivable. At the same time, it's not something wholly condemnable, if that's a word. She ensured that both AJ and Clementine could have a better chance at life, because at that point where Kenny was at, I don't think he could have kept Clementine and AJ safe. But her, even if she had killed Kenny herself, I don't think that at that point that was the right decision for her to make, and it definitely wasn't her decision to make. She didn't have any right to make that decision. So no, I don't think Clementine should forgive her. At the same time, I think Clementine should go with her. Not just because Clementine and AJ are safer with Jane, but because Jane seems to actually genuinely care about Clementine. I've been all jokey and said, Jane and Clementine are like sisters, but it literally is like they are sisters. Jane sees Clementine as a second chance to have a little sister and look after a little sister, and I think she can do it as well. So in that regard, I'm glad Clementine went with her. If you watch the episode, you will have seen that I didn't make a decision. I didn't click either one of them in time. This, again, wasn't a conscious decision. It was me not paying attention to the timer and still trying to make a decision. But it actually ended up with the perfect result. I still ended up going with Jane, which is what I wanted to do, but I didn't force Clementine to say the words, "I forgive you," because I don't forgive her. In terms of if there's a season 3, I don't really care, if I'm being honest. I've heard a few people say this before, and I would be in the party that agrees with them. There was actually no need for a season 2. Season 1 ended in the perfect way, and it would have been fine to leave it up to our imagination what happened to Clementine. That being said, that doesn't mean, in my view, that season 2 is a bad thing. I enjoyed it. I think season 1 was probably a better season, but season 2 definitely had its great moments, and it was really interesting to dive into the character that is Clementine. Again, it ends in a good way, and I'm happy with leaving what happens to Clementine after that point to be open to the imagination. But at the same time, if they do make a season 3, as long as it's good, I'm fine with that too. And if there were to be a season 3, I think we're in a good place being with Jane. Letting the family in at the very end is, I think, really the kicker. Jane has preached a philosophy of non-altruism, I guess you could say. This isn't necessarily a morally bad thing. I can completely understand where she's coming from. It's practical. She wants to survive, and helping others is often a way to not survive in that sort of scenario, and I get that. In fact, to a certain extent, I even agree with it. I think part of it is the fact that I'm not in a zombie apocalypse. I'm some guy playing a video game, and I can think about how I would react to it now, not how I'd react to it 19 months into the apocalypse. Apocalypse stories are so often about how people change because of the situation that has changed, and so yeah, Clementine's changed too. We've seen that in things like her watching Carver be murdered. But right from the get-go with Lee, and then with Clementine when I got control of her, I always tried to play it as, despite everything, I need to stay morally right and help people and be a good person. And that's not easy, and it's a thin line, and one of the things that the Telltale games do well is they force you to make these tough decisions. Hell, again, we even go all the way back to episode 1 of season 1, whether you let that woman in the motel kill herself or not. That's not really a decision that's easy to make, because on one side, and especially if you disagree with things like euthanasia, then, or assisted suicide, then it's it's not an easy decision to make. I'm not fully sure what my views are about that in the real world, and I'm not really planning to go into it because that would be a very long and complex discussion with a computer screen at this point. But I let her do it because she wanted to die, and in one sense, especially after everything that had happened, I didn't have the right to say no to that. So yeah, I've tried to keep Clementine as the morally right person as much as possible throughout the series. And Jane wouldn't agree with that viewpoint, which is fair enough. But that final moment of me deciding whether to let the family in or not, I think really came down to, has Jane changed my version of Clementine's own belief system, her own moral views? And the answer is no, because Clementine let the family in. Sure, the dad had a gun. Hell, if they don't make a season 3, then maybe in some people's imagination that family brutally murdered Jane and Clementine, and AJ. I don't think that happened, though. I hope it didn't happen, and if there's no season 3 ever, then that will be what happened in my mind. But yeah. So I think it was really good that they added that extra moment in to define whether Clementine has completely changed, because I think that was a large factor of what season 2 was, has Clementine changed? Is she a different person? Has she gone to the dark side, I guess you could call it, not in a Star Wars sense, but you know what I mean. Cross that thin line. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the episode and the main things that happened in it. In terms of my overview of the whole series, it's been a delight. It's been incredibly enjoyable. Even the episodes were still good episodes, they just weren't as good as some of the others. And to be honest, that's kind of a thing with The Walking Dead anyways. I watched the TV show, and the episodes are still decent episodes of TV, except for one particular one. I won't say which one. But yeah, they're all still enjoyable. Anyways, this is getting on quite long, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to edit this down, but it's been fun, and I've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I think I'll probably upload this on the same day as I start the new series, so you'll see what that is. But yeah, this is my viewpoint on The Walking Dead, and now you understand why I didn't put it at the end of the final episode, because it's an extra 18 minutes, and I'm going to end it now. Thanks, guys.